Well, welcome to episode 43 of 10-Minute Record Reviews. This time we're going to talk about Nuyorican Soul, which is a 1996 album, which was a project of a duo known as Masters at Work, Kenny Dope Gonzalez and Little Louie Vega. These guys are producers from New York. It was produced right in the trough of the vinyl record industry, and so there were actually very few copies of this available on vinyl. This is one of them. I feel kind of fortunate to have it. Most people will have experienced the CD version of this, and in fact that was how I first experienced it. This is the version I bought in 1996. My own story regarding this album, it was quite a journey. I was in the habit in those days. You could go into, you buying CDs, you go into a music store, and if it was a decent store, you could take CDs up to the front and and listen to them on the headphones and decide what you were going to buy. And so I like to go through kind of the jazz and the so-called acid jazz bins and whatever, to see what was there. And I came across this and listened to it. I was totally blown away. And I mean, I think the best way I actually found a CNN review of all things, which actually quite accurately describes my reaction to the album, which said, "This is a genre-busting album that fuses old school R&B, salsa, jazz, disco, hip-hop, house, and dance club styles, executed by an all-star roster of guest musicians," which absolutely true. It is a complete soup of all those particular styles, done absolutely reverentially. And what they have also done is brought a whole bunch of stars of that particular era whose stars were maybe on the wane by 1996, and brought them back and done this incredibly reverential album, covering old songs from that period, but also creating new music, which in many cases is just as good as the classic old songs that they've covered in other parts of the album. It didn't chart at all on the Billboard 200. It was number 3 in the jazz charts, but made no impact on popular music. It's a bit like a tribute album, that it's difficult to tell which are the old covers and which are the tribute kinds of new music is I guess a testament to the genius of the whole record. It starts with Runaway, which is a cover of a South Soul Orchestra. The South Soul Orchestra were a bunch of musicians who split off from the Philly sound in the 1970s, in particular from MFSB, who's probably the biggest name group from the whole Philly disco sound. And this is sung by India, who made her name as a singer in house music. It's a really fantastic, upbeat dance tune, and it's got and interestingly it has this version has a string outro, which the version on the CD does not have. Followed up by Sweet Tears, which is a Roy Ayers tune. He's great. He's just got that tobacco-y kind of sounding voice, which was so much a feature of all his great albums in the 70s. But to me, the real heroes of the song are actually the backup singers, who are major singers in their own right, who sing lead in other parts of the album. As I mentioned, this is a bit of an ensemble effort here. So India and Jocelyn Brown, who both sing on other tracks, and a few other singers as well, are the backup singers on this. And when the backup singers start to take over the song about two-thirds of the way through, total magic. This is what you might call an up-tempo groove monster of a song. Then It's All Right, I Feel It, which again the tempo is not letting down. The whole first side is just full of adrenaline. Here, Jocelyn Brown just sings the house down. Just completely nails it. And this also was the first place in the album where the drumming of Vidal Davis just starts to take over a song at a certain point and just drives it, and it makes an enormous difference to the quality of the music. Side concludes with Make Your Nature Rise. It's a terrific song. I can't believe it was left off. Very upbeat, very funky. Whole first side of this is just totally dance worthy, but the quality of this is not just throwaway club music. The quality of the music is excellent all the way through. Side 2 begins with Nautilus, which is a Bob James cover. Bob James, of course, was the in-house arranger and composer for a lot of Creed Taylor's 1970s CTI jazz funk tunes. Became a star in his own right. Known to most people, or maybe not known, but it was the guy who did the theme from Taxi. Then I think comes the highlight of the whole album, which is I Am the Black Gold of the Sun. sung by Jocelyn Brown. Now this is a cover of a song by a band called the Rotary Connection, and the Rotary Connection's lead singer was a woman, very talented woman, named Minnie Riperton, who was actually Maya Rudolph's mother, Maya Rudolph of Saturday Night Live and other sort of comedic movie and television fame. Anyway, this is her mom. It's an incredible song. This is to me like one of the grooviest tracks of the whole 1990s, and it went to #1 on Billboard's dance track. It's one of the few sort of impacts on the charts that this album actually made. If you've never heard this song, and you're a fan of dance music, you're completely missing out. Then a couple songs to close out this Jazzy Jeff's theme. This feels a bit phoned in to me. And it feels a little bit like they're stretching to kind of make this album relevant to the present day. So there's got to be an out and out hip hop song on the album. I love hip hop. This is not really a particularly memorable outing for Jeff, but it's followed by a pretty decent song called Roy Scat, which is basically exactly what the title would suggest, and again stars the awesome Roy Ayers. So side 3 is what you might call the Latin side as opposed to the dance side, and it starts with Shoshana, which includes both Hilton Ruiz and Tito Puente. And in particular, Shoshana is a vehicle for Hilton's incredible Latin piano playing. Just wonderful stuff. Tito's own contribution, a little bit minimal on this. Abriendo el Dominante is the next song, which is an Eddie Palmieri number, and Eddie Palmieri, of course, again, long history in Latin music. My personal favorite detour of his was the Harlem River Drive sort of collective and album, and then subsequent sort of prison performances that he did in the early 1970s. This has got a wicked Latin beat. It's got the timbales, it's got congas, it's got bongos, and there's some Palmieri is flirting with some kind of discordant notes that work really well here, and the whole thing works well. The tempo picks up as it goes, really kind of infectious. Then there's a song called MAW Latin Blues, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically it's a 12-bar blues underneath with Latin percussion and instrumentation over top. Hilton Ruiz again, this time on organ, and Tito Puente comes. This time he's much more evident in the song, and his work is quite thrilling here, I think. So that's a great tune. And then a song called God New Life, which features Dave Valentine on flute. Not so much within the Latin theme, and not one of the more memorable tunes. Then finally, side 4, You Can Do It Baby, which is the George Benson vehicle. George Benson comes into the beginning with a few lyrics, and then pretty much the whole rest of the song is him doing that thing where he solos, but also doubles the solo with his voice in doing scat, which is it's just remarkable to hear. I always love when he does that, and this is a great example of that particular technique. It's a wonderful beat, wonderful, just another great groove monster of a song, and a great outing for George. Last 2 tracks, Nervous Track and Mind Fluid, to me they're basically masters at work only. I mean, these guys I think are better producers than they are songwriters, bluntly, and these tracks they're not bad, but they're kind of forgettable. Overall, I give this album 4.5 out of 5. It's a completely epic album. It's a landmark in the 1990s, and nobody has ever really been able to pull this off again. What I said to the record store owner was, "Well, do you have anything else like this?" And he just looked at me and said, "No." And I think that's still the answer. There's nothing else really like this. So if you don't have this in your collection, you're missing out.